Hey guys, welcome to the Silver Report Uncut. Our sponsor, SD Bullion, has some awesome Black Friday deals, but you better move fast. Don't worry, they're through the entire weekend, but they're only for this weekend. We also see if you get the 2013 1 ounce Perth Mint lunar silver coins, if you get 19 of them, you get the extra one free, so you get the full 20. They also have the 1 kilo Proclaim Liberty silver bars at only 49 cents over spot. That's not to mention the other great deal they have on Washington quarters. But you better move fast. I know for a fact they're losing out on these deals. And when you look at the price of silver and gold right now, it's almost like you have a sale within a sale. That also won't last long. What great timing and what a great opportunity to be able to take advantage of. Now, the thing I love about this deal is that all of these selections, they happen to be very unique. My favorite happens to be the price they have on the 2011 Silver Eagles that is in their huge list of other deals on this same page. Now, if you visit through the link, it'll take you right to all of these deals. Just visit sdbullion.com/SRU. I'll also leave a link in the description to make it easy. All right, I thank you guys. Let's get to work. Now, it's interesting because someone was suggesting yesterday in the comments that the dollar collapse would pretty much an impossible idea, that someone just cooked it up somewhere in a back room and it could never happen. Now, I wanted to cover a very important fact. We see the share of dollars held in global reserves. It's fallen from 65.3% in the fourth quarter of 2016 to 61.8% in the second quarter of 2019. Another interesting fact is that there hasn't been competition allowed. In fact, whenever it comes to the sale of oil, countries have been disallowed from selling their oil in US dollars. This also has changed very recently. In fact, we see a handful of nations that are steadily working to de-dollarize, and yet to everyone that seems normal. This has not been allowed to take place, and it appears as if, at least for the time being, there's nothing that the US can do about it, or they would. Of course, the dollar, it's been used by pretty much every nation. It's been the international reserve currency. That can't be understated. And even though the Fed has been constantly devaluing the US dollar since we left the gold standard, foreign governments, central banks, global financial markets, they depend on the US dollar. It also has its status as a safe haven asset around the world. But you can't escape this truth. It's a fiat currency. Its value is based primarily on faith. And the fact that this little handful of nations is continuing to grow, and so is their technologies, we see that they've created this direct challenge to the US SWIFT system, probably because most of the sanctions we hand out are on the US SWIFT system. This means that those same methods of control will no longer be effective moving forward. And you know, this process is well underway. We see that they have already begun developing an alternative to the US SWIFT system among some of the BRICS countries. If you're not familiar, these are some of the fastest growing economies in the world. The issue is they don't want to use the dollar. They've also been boldly proclaiming how their intention is to do trade amongst each other in their own currencies to circumvent the dollar. Now, the reason they said that they're creating this other SWIFT system, they were very bold, it is to create a direct challenge to the United States hegemony. Now, we see this little tiny handful of nations. This is the type of thing that can turn into a snowball process, and before you know it, it is a major, major problem. That's why countries have not even been allowed to suggest selling oil in anything but the dollar. But the process of reducing dollar holdings is already well underway. They've been using local denominations, taking part in currency swaps, and the data suggests that more and more states are gradually attempting to dethrone the dollar. In fact, many of the major oil producers around the world and some of the world's largest exporters have halted the accumulation of US debt securities. Back in 2014, we saw there was a 3-year ruble yuan currency swap agreement that was worth $25 billion, the first of its kind that's been allowed. There's nothing they can really do about it, it seems. Now, its aim was to increase trade with those two nations and their local currencies. Now, another huge flashing sign that there's a change underway is that central banks they revealed their desire to own gold. We've seen, according to the World Gold Council, central banks have purchased an all-time high 375 tons of gold this year. That's so far. Now, it might only account for 1/5 of total global gold demand, but what's most interesting is who is purchasing this gold. Most of the central banks around the world use fiat currencies. What else would they need such an aggressive accumulation of gold? Now, in the aftermath of the recession, people found out real quick, once they began devaluing the dollar, how bad it could hurt to possess dollars and dollar debt. In fact, we see how the strong dollar has just about crashed almost every emerging market. So, of course, these institutions and nations have begun scooping up bullion to protect themselves from whatever is heading down the way. And some would even suggest perhaps it's to prepare to transition away from the dollar. And the dollar's strength, it comes from other nations, entirely from other nations. There's no intrinsic value, there's nothing backing it. It comes by its use as the world reserve currency. Now, it might not be huge, the amount of nations that are abandoning the dollar right now, but it's something that is gaining momentum. It's something that wasn't even a conversation. It only just began to be a discussion in 2008. But maybe there's a method to their madness. Another very important fact, and I'm surprised that a lot of the mainstream outlets are not circulating this information. It seems to be some of the biggest news that we've ever seen in recent years, but the BRICS economic bloc, they're also engaging in discussions right now to issue cross-national digital money in order to reduce the dependence on their economies to the United States.